Okay, here's the text rewritten for optimal text-to-speech performance, following all your guidelines. I walked into Dr. Patricia Morrison's office on a gray Tuesday morning in February, expecting nothing more than my annual executive physical. At 62, I'd built Chen Properties, spelled C-H-E-N, from a single duplex in Richmond into one of Vancouver's, spelled V-A-N-C-O-U-V-E-R-S, most respected real estate development firms. I'd survived prostate cancer 5 years ago, lost my wife Margaret to breast cancer 3 years back, and thought I'd seen enough of doctors and hospitals to last a lifetime. Dr. Morrison had been my physician for 15 years. I trusted her completely. So, when she asked me to sit down with that particular expression on her face, the one doctors wear when they're about to deliver news you don't want to hear, my first thought was that the cancer had returned. "Robert, the blood work came back," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "Everything looks good, overall. Your cholesterol is down. Blood pressure is excellent for your age. But there's something we need to discuss." I felt my chest tighten. "Is it back? The cancer?" "No, nothing like that." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Robert, do you remember the complications you had after your surgery in 2020? The additional procedures we had to perform? Of course, it was hell recovering from that. One of the consequences of those complications is that you're infertile, completely and permanently. There's no possibility of you fathering children naturally. It's been documented in your file for years." I nodded slowly, not understanding why she was bringing this up. Margaret and I had already raised our son, Michael. At my age, more children weren't even on my radar. "I understand that, Patricia. Michael's 34 now. I'm not exactly planning on starting over." She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Robert, you listed Jessica as your emergency contact on the intake form. She's your wife?" "Yes. We got married 4 months ago." "Why?" Dr. Morrison's expression shifted to something between concern and alarm. "Robert, she called yesterday to reschedule today's appointment. She mentioned she wanted to be here for the results because of her pregnancy. She said she's 14 weeks along." The words hung in the air between us. I felt my mouth go dry. That must be a misunderstanding. Jessica couldn't have said that. I have the message recorded. She specifically stated that she's pregnant and that you're the father. She wanted to know if your medications would affect the baby. I stood up, my legs suddenly unsteady. There has to be some mistake. Dr. Morrison's face was grave. "Robert, given your medical history, if your wife is pregnant, you need to understand, biologically, unequivocally, you are not the father. It's impossible." The room seemed to tilt. Jessica and I had met 7 months ago at a charity auction for the Vancouver General Hospital Foundation. She'd been elegant, sophisticated, claiming to be a widow herself. Her husband had been a Canadian diplomat who died in a boating accident in Greece 3 years prior. She understood loss. She understood grief. We'd connected immediately. We'd married quickly. Too quickly, Michael had said. But after 3 years alone, I'd wanted companionship. Jessica had seemed perfect. She was 40 years old to my 62, well-educated, refined. She'd traveled extensively, spoke 3 languages, had impeccable taste. She fit seamlessly into my world. "And now this, Robert," Dr. Morrison said quietly. "I'm telling you this because I care about you as a patient and a friend. If your wife is claiming to be pregnant with your child, something is very wrong. You need to protect yourself." I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities. Could Jessica have misunderstood something? Could she be confused about the father? But no, we'd been together exclusively for 7 months. If she was 14 weeks pregnant, that meant... I pulled into the circular driveway of our Shaughnessy home, the house I'd shared with Margaret, the house where we'd raised Michael. Jessica had moved in after our October wedding, redecorating extensively. At the time, I'd thought she was making it her own. Now, every change felt sinister. Jessica was in the living room, arranging flowers in a crystal vase. She looked up when I entered, her face lighting up with that smile that had captivated me at the auction. "Darling, you're back early. How was the appointment?" I stood in the doorway, studying her face for any sign of deception. She looked radiant, her auburn hair catching the afternoon light streaming through the bay windows. "Jessica, Dr. Morrison told me you called yesterday." "Oh, yes. I wanted to be there, but I had that meeting with the caterer for the foundation gala. How did everything go?" She said, "You mentioned you were pregnant." Jessica's smile broadened. She set down the flowers and walked over, taking my hands. "I was going to surprise you at dinner tonight. I know we haven't been trying, but miracles happen. I'm 14 weeks along. I saw Dr. Chen, spelled Chen, last week, Dr. Sarah Chen, the obstetrician. She confirmed everything. We're going to have a baby." I pulled my hands away. "Jessica, that's not possible." Her expression shifted, confusion clouding her features. "What do you mean? I have the ultrasound pictures. Would you like to see them?" "I can't have children. The surgery I had in 2020, there were complications. I'm infertile, permanently." For just a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Fear, calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by injured bewilderment. "That can't be right. Maybe the doctors were wrong. These things happen." "They weren't wrong, Jessica. It's medically impossible for me to be the father." She sat down heavily on the sofa, her hand moving to her stomach. "I don't understand. Are you accusing me of something?" "Robert, I love you. This is your baby." "Whose baby is it, really?" Tears welled in her eyes. "How can you ask me that? After everything we've been through, everything we've shared, I thought you trusted me." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But Dr. Morrison's words echoed in my mind. Something is very wrong. "I need some time," I said, heading for the stairs. "I'm going to my study." I locked the door behind me and called the one person I knew I could trust. My son, Michael. "Dad, what's wrong?" Michael worked as an investment analyst at RBC, lived in a condo in Yaletown with his girlfriend Sarah. He'd been skeptical about Jessica from the beginning, though he'd been diplomatic enough not to say much after the wedding. "Michael, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions yet. Can you recommend a private investigator? Someone discreet? Someone good?" There was a pause. "Dad, what's going on?" "Please, Michael, I'll explain everything, but not over the phone. Can you come by tomorrow? Early, before Jessica wakes up." "I'll be there at 6:30. That night, Jessica made my favorite dinner, wild salmon with roasted vegetables. She moved around the kitchen with practiced grace, chatting about her day, about plans for the nursery, about names she liked. She was either the world's best actress or genuinely believed what she was saying. I played along, feeling like a stranger in my own home. When she kissed me goodnight, I felt nothing but a cold knot of dread in my stomach. Michael arrived at 6:25. I met him at the door, finger to my lips, and led him to my study. "Jesus, Dad, you look terrible. What's happening?" I told him everything. The doctor's appointment, Jessica's claimed pregnancy, the impossibility of it all. Michael's jaw tightened. I knew something was off about her. From the beginning, something didn't sit right. The way she rushed the engagement, how she isolated you from your friends. She didn't isolate me. "Dad, when's the last time you had dinner with James and Linda? They were your best friends for 20 years. When's the last time you played golf with the Tuesday group? Jessica always has something planned, some conflict." I realized, with a sinking feeling, that he was right. My social circle had narrowed considerably since Jessica entered my life. I'd thought it was natural newlywed adjustment. Now, it felt deliberate. I have a contact, Michael said. Thomas Riley, former RCMP, runs a private investigation firm now. I've used him for due diligence on some investments. He's good, Dad. Thorough and discreet. Set up a meeting. I met Thomas Riley that afternoon at a coffee shop in Kitalano, far from my usual haunts. He was in his 50s, graying hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Chen, Michael briefed me on the situation. I want to be straight with you. This won't be pleasant. If your wife is lying about this, there's going to be more. There always is. I need to know the truth. Understood. I'll need access to any financial records you have, her personal information, details about how you met, everything. I gave him copies of our joint bank statements, Jessica's identification, or what I thought was her identification, and a timeline of our relationship. 3 days later, Thomas called. We need to meet. Not your house, not your office. Somewhere completely private. We met at his office in Burnaby, a nondescript building that housed several small businesses. His office was on the 3rd floor, walls covered with filing cabinets and whiteboards. Mr. Chen, please sit down. The tone of his voice told me everything I needed to know before he said another word. Jessica Hartwell doesn't exist, Thomas said flatly. Or rather, she did exist. She died in a car accident in Ontario in 2015. Your wife has been using her identity. I felt the air leave my lungs. Thomas pulled out a folder, spreading photographs across his desk. Her real name is Sarah Martinez. She's 43, not 40. She was born in Calgary, dropped out of university after 2 years. She's been married 3 times before you. He pushed forward a photograph of a younger woman with darker hair, but the eyes, those eyes, were unmistakably Jessica's. Her first husband was David Hartwell. Yes, the real Jessica Hartwell's brother. He was a Canadian diplomat stationed in Athens. He died in 2018 when he fell from his yacht in the Aegean Sea, spelled A-E-G-E-A-N, accidental drowning. The Greek authorities ruled Sarah inherited approximately $2 million between life insurance and his estate. My hands were shaking. Thomas pushed a glass of water toward me. Her second husband was Thomas Bradford, an oil executive from Calgary. They married in 2020. He died in a single-car accident near Banff in 2021. Sarah collected another $3 million from his life insurance and estate. Jesus Christ, I whispered. There's more. After Bradford's death, Sarah disappeared for almost 2 years. She resurfaced in Vancouver last summer, using Jessica Hartwell's identity, stolen from her first husband's sister. She's been operating under this name for the past 8 months. The pregnancy, Thomas pulled out another set of photographs. They showed Jessica Sarah entering a medical clinic in Burnaby, not the upscale Kerrisdale office where Dr. Chen supposedly practiced. There is no Dr. Sarah Chen at that address. It's a medical aesthetics clinic. She's been getting fitted for a prosthetic pregnancy belly, silicone, custom-made, very realistic. I've got video of her putting it on in a parking garage. I thought I might be sick. There's more. Mr. Chen, I tracked her credit card usage. She has another apartment in Surrey, spelled S-U-R-R-E-Y, rented under the name Maria Santos. She's been there multiple times per week, always when you think she's at the gym or meeting friends for lunch. Who lives there? A man named Carlos Martinez. Her brother, he's 36, has a record for fraud and identity theft. Did 18 months in an Alberta prison. He's been helping her. Thomas pulled up security footage on his laptop. I watched as Jessica Sarah entered a shabby apartment building carrying shopping bags. She was smiling, relaxed, completely different from the refined woman I knew. What are they planning? My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Based on patterns from her previous marriages, I believe she's building toward one of two scenarios. Either she'll claim you've become abusive or unstable, divorce you, and take a large settlement. Then you'll have a fatal accident within a year. Or she'll wait until she's adjusted all the legal documents in her favor, then stage your suicide or accidental death immediately. Why the fake pregnancy? Sympathy, isolation. If you have a baby on the way, you're less likely to question her behavior. Friends and family will excuse any odd requests, setting up nurseries, accessing joint accounts for baby expenses. It's also insurance. If you start to suspect something, she'll claim a miscarriage due to stress you caused. Instant victim status. I stared at the photographs spread across the desk, images of a woman I thought I knew living a complete lie. The diplomat, I said, David Hartwell. The Greek authorities ruled it accidental. Yes, but I reached out to a contact I have with Interpol. They've been building a file on suspicious deaths among wealthy expatriates in the Mediterranean. Hartwell's death fit a pattern. Wealthy older man, new younger wife, death in foreign waters where investigations are difficult. They've been looking for connections. And Bradford, the oil executive? Calgary police initially investigated it as suspicious, but they couldn't prove anything. Single vehicle accident. He'd been drinking. Toxicology showed .12 blood alcohol, but Bradford's daughter, from his first marriage, never believed it. She claims her father never drank and drove. She's been trying to get the case reopened. Does she know about Sarah? Not yet, but she should. Thomas leaned forward. Mr. Chen, I need to bring in someone else. A friend of mine, Detective Karen Wong, with the Vancouver Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. This is bigger than just you. This woman is a serial predator. I nodded numbly. Detective Wong came to Thomas's office the next day. She was in her early 40s, sharp and no nonsense. Mr. Chen, I appreciate you coming forward. Based on what Mr. Riley has shared, we have grounds for a preliminary investigation. But I need to be honest. Building a case strong enough for charges, especially for the deaths in other jurisdictions, will take time. How much time? Weeks, possibly months. In the meantime, you need to act completely normal. If she suspects you know anything, she'll disappear. We've seen it before with professional con artists. They have exit strategies prepared. What about my safety? If she's killed 2 people, we'll have surveillance on your property. Unmarked vehicles, plainclothes officers, and I want you to change your will immediately. Make it so she gets nothing if you die. That removes her incentive. I met with my lawyer, Gordon Fairfield, the next morning. I'd known Gordon for 30 years. He'd handled the purchase of every property Chen Properties had ever developed. Robert, my God, are you certain about all this? I wish I wasn't. Gordon drew up a new will within hours, leaving everything to Michael and establishing a trust for any legitimate children of mine with strict DNA verification required. Jessica would receive nothing. I'm also going to recommend we review all the documents you've signed since your marriage. Power of attorney, any changes to business structures, anything she had access to. What we discovered made my blood run cold. Over the 4 months of our marriage, Jessica had slowly, systematically, been positioning herself to access everything. She'd convinced me to add her to the deed of the house for estate planning purposes. She'd been added as a signatory on several Chen Properties accounts to help with bookkeeping while you focus on the development projects. She'd even convinced me to take out an additional life insurance policy. We're married now. We should protect each other. The policy was for $5 million with Jessica as the sole beneficiary. Gordon, can you tell if she's forged my signature on anything? We spent hours comparing documents. Some signatures looked right. Others showed subtle differences, hesitation marks, incorrect pressure patterns. I think she practiced, Gordon said grimly. Look at these documents from December versus these from February. The February ones are nearly perfect replicas of your signature. What does that mean? It means she's been planning this for months, possibly since before you even met. Detective Wong brought in a forensic accountant named Patricia Reynolds. Patricia had salt and pepper hair and the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen every financial crime imaginable. Mr. Chen, I've reviewed your accounts. May I ask, did you authorize a wire transfer of $320,000 to an investment firm called Pacific Horizon Capital on February 8th? No. What is Pacific Horizon Capital? It doesn't exist. It's a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The money went there, was immediately transferred to 6 different accounts, and then withdrawn as cash from ATMs across the lower mainland over 3 days. Jessica stole $300,000. That's the transfer we found so far. I'm seeing a pattern of smaller withdrawals as well. 5,000 here, 7,000 there, always just under the threshold that would trigger automatic bank reviews. Over 4 months, I estimate she's taken approximately $450,000 from your accounts. I felt rage building in my chest, hot and acidic. There's something else, Patricia continued. She's been using your identity to establish credit lines. I found 3 credit cards in your name with a combined limit of $200,000. They're all maxed out. Bills are going to an address in Surrey, presumably where the brother lives. Can I cancel them? Not without alerting her. Detective Wong needs you to maintain the appearance that nothing has changed. This was torture. Every morning, I woke up next to a woman who was systematically destroying my life. Every night, I sat across the dinner table from her, making conversation, pretending everything was fine. Jessica talked constantly about the baby. She'd started showing me paint samples for the nursery. She'd ordered furniture, expensive furniture, using the joint credit card. She talked about names. For a boy, she liked Sebastian. For a girl, Charlotte. What do you think, darling? She'd ask, her hand resting on her fake belly. Whatever makes you happy, I'd say, and excuse myself to my study. Michael came by twice a week, always with plausible reasons, dropping off documents for me to review, asking business advice. He'd hug me, whisper updates. Tom's team is tracking her every move. They've identified 12 separate identities she's used over the past 10 years. Dad, this woman is a ghost. Detective Wong called me on a Wednesday afternoon. Mr. Chen, we've had a breakthrough. The Greek authorities are reopening David Hartwell's case. They've reviewed the original investigation and found irregularities. He'd taken out a large insurance policy 2 weeks before his death. Sarah was the beneficiary, and she was the only witness to him falling overboard. Can they charge her? Possibly, but it's complicated by jurisdiction. What's more important is that Thomas Bradford's daughter, Jennifer, has been trying to reach you. She saw a society page photo of your wedding online. She recognized Sarah. She knew her as Sophia Bradford. Jennifer Bradford flew out from Calgary that weekend. She was 36, a lawyer, and she'd been fighting to prove her father's death wasn't an accident for 3 years. We met at Detective Wong's office. Me, Jennifer, Detective Wong, Thomas Riley, and another investigator from Calgary. Jennifer showed me photographs. Sarah at Jennifer's father's funeral, dressed in black, crying convincingly. Sarah at the reading of the will. Sarah cleaning out the house in Calgary. She was with my father for 14 months, Jennifer said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Married him in October 2020. By Christmas, she had access to everything. She told everyone she was pregnant, just like she's told you. There was no baby. She claimed she had a miscarriage after my father died, blamed it on the trauma. I'm sorry, I said inadequately. My father never drank and drove, never. But that night, his blood alcohol was 0.12. The police found an empty whiskey bottle in the car, but Sarah had poured the drinks at dinner. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. I knew she'd drugged him somehow, made him seem drunk, then sent him off in the car. How did she make the car crash? Jennifer pulled out a file. This is what I've spent 3 years and $50,000 investigating. The crash happened on a winding mountain road near Banff. My father's car went through a guardrail and down an embankment. The investigation found brake failure. The brake lines had corroded and ruptured. Couldn't that happen naturally? On a 2-year-old Mercedes that had been meticulously maintained? No. I had an independent mechanic review the wreckage. He found evidence of tampering. Someone had deliberately weakened the brake lines with acid. Not enough to cause immediate failure, but enough that, under heavy braking on a mountain road, they'd give out. Detective Wong leaned forward. Jennifer, would you be willing to testify about all this? Absolutely. I want that woman in prison. The Calgary investigator, a man named Robert Duncan, added, We've been building a circumstantial case for 3 years. With Mr. Chen's situation added to the pattern, we finally have enough to convince a prosecutor. But we need to catch her in the act of something we can prove beyond a doubt. What do you suggest? I asked. Detective Wong pulled out a folder. We wait for her to make a mistake, and we believe she will soon. Mr. Chen, you're scheduled for that foundation gala in 3 weeks, correct? Yes. The Vancouver General Hospital Foundation benefit. It's one of the biggest charity events of the year. Jessica has been very involved in planning, hasn't she? I nodded. She'd volunteered for the planning committee, spent hours on phone calls and meetings. We think that's her endgame, Detective Wong said. A public venue, lots of people, opportunities for accidents, wealthy donors, prestige, witnesses to how devoted she's been as your wife. If something happens to you there, everyone will remember her as the grieving pregnant widow. What kind of accident? We don't know yet, but Thomas's team has been monitoring communications between Sarah and her brother. They've been researching several possibilities. Severe allergic reactions, cardiac events that could be triggered by drugs, even staged assaults. I felt cold, so I'm bait. You're the only way we catch her. And Mr. Chen, I promise you, we'll have officers everywhere. Nothing will happen to you. The 3 weeks until the gala were the longest of my life. I played the role of loving husband while wearing a wire. Every conversation with Jessica was recorded. Every movement tracked. She became more affectionate as the gala approached. She'd plan elaborate dinners, surprise me with small gifts, talk excitedly about the event. It's going to be such a special night, she said one evening. Your first big public event since we got married. Everyone will see us as a family. You, me, and the baby. Her hand rested on the prosthetic belly. She'd become so comfortable with the lie that I wondered if she'd started to believe it herself. 2 days before the gala, Jessica went to her Surrey apartment. Thomas's surveillance team followed her. She stayed for 3 hours. When she left, Thomas called me immediately. Robert, we've got something. After she left, we executed a search warrant. We found a detailed plan in Carlos's apartment. A plan for what? For the gala. They've been coordinating with someone on the catering staff, a woman named Rita Alvarez, who happens to be Carlos's girlfriend. The plan is to drug your drink with a combination of medications that will trigger a cardiac event. Given your medical history, it would look completely natural. You'd have chest pains, they'd call an ambulance, you'd have a heart attack on the way to the hospital. My hands started shaking. The medications they plan to use, benzodiazepines, spelled Benzodiazepines, mixed with a calcium channel blocker, They'd be out of your system within hours. With your prostate cancer history, your age, everyone would assume it was natural causes. Jessica would inherit everything. You have to arrest them. We will, but Mr. Chen, we want to catch them in the act. We need Jessica on record, attempting to murder you. Otherwise, a good lawyer could argue this was all Carlos and Rita, that Jessica knew nothing about it. You want me to go to this gala? With surveillance everywhere and the drink switched for a harmless substitute, you'd be completely safe, but we need Jessica to go through with the plan. We need her on camera, coordinating with Rita. We need her reaction. When you don't collapse, we need her to run, because that's consciousness of guilt. I didn't sleep the night before the gala. Jessica laid out my tuxedo, chattering about how handsome I'd look, how proud she was to be attending as Mrs. Chen. The Vancouver hotel ballroom glittered with lights and crystal, 700 guests in evening wear, a 30-piece orchestra, champagne fountains. Chen Properties had donated $200,000 to the hospital foundation. I was scheduled to give remarks before dinner. Jessica looked stunning in a navy blue gown with strategic ruching over her fake belly. She held my arm as we made our entrance, smiling at everyone, accepting congratulations about the baby. You must be so excited, people kept saying. Over the moon, Jessica would reply, her hand protectively on her stomach. Michael was there with Sarah, both of them positioned near the bar where they could watch. Thomas Riley was in a tuxedo at a corner table, blending in perfectly. Detective Wong was undercover as a server. At 7:30, as planned, I went to the bar for a drink. The bartender, who was actually an undercover officer, handed me a scotch. From my peripheral vision, I saw Rita Alvarez approaching. She was in catering uniform, carrying a tray of champagne flutes. She stumbled slightly, bumping the bar. In that moment of manufactured chaos, she reached toward my drink. So sorry, she said, steadying herself. The bartender immediately swapped my drink for an identical glass filled with iced tea that looked like scotch. Rita didn't notice the switch. I carried my drink back to our table. Jessica's eyes tracked me. She smiled. Darling, you look tense. Drink up. You need to relax before your speech. I took a sip. Plain iced tea. 20 minutes passed. I saw Jessica checking her watch. She excused herself to the ladies' room. Detective Wong followed. Through my wire, I heard Jessica's voice in the bathroom. It's not working. Why isn't it working? A reply I didn't recognize, presumably Rita's voice. I gave him enough to drop a horse. He should be on the floor by now. Carlos, what do we do? Jessica's voice, higher pitched, stressed. A man's voice, also in the bathroom. Carlos must have snuck in. We abort. Get your stuff and go. Use the service entrance. I've got a car waiting. Detective Wong's voice came through my earpiece. We're moving in. Stay calm. I saw Jessica emerge from the bathroom, her face pale. She walked quickly back to our table, grabbed her clutch purse. Darling, I'm not feeling well. I think I need some air. Let me come with you. Too sharp. She softened her voice. No, it's just the baby making me queasy. I'll just step outside for a moment. You stay? You have your speech soon. She kissed my cheek and walked toward the exit. I watched as Detective Wong and 4 uniformed officers intercepted her, just before she reached the door. At the same moment, officers moved in on Rita at the bar and Carlos near the bathrooms. Jessica tried to run. She actually kicked off her heels and ran, the prosthetic belly bouncing awkwardly under her gown. She made it 3 steps before 2 officers caught her arms. The ballroom erupted in shocked whispers. Jessica Hartwell, you're under arrest for attempted murder, Detective Wong said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. What? No, there's been a mistake. Robert, tell them. I stood up slowly, walked over to where she was being handcuffed. Your name isn't Jessica Hartwell, I said quietly. It's Sarah Martinez, and I know everything. Her face transformed. The scared, confused expression vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. You can't prove anything. We can prove all of it. The false identity, the 2 previous husbands you killed, the money you stole, the fake pregnancy, the drugs you tried to use tonight. We have recordings, witnesses, documentation of everything. She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw her without any mask at all. There was nothing behind those eyes. No remorse, no fear, no humanity, just cold assessment. You were supposed to die, she said flatly. You were supposed to drink that scotch and die, and I would have cried beautifully and inherited everything. Why? You already had millions from the others. Why did you need more? She laughed, a harsh sound. Because money runs out. Because I deserve more. Because men like you make it so easy. Desperate old widowers with more money than sense, eager for a pretty young wife. You didn't love me. You loved not being alone. The officers pulled her toward the exit. She was still talking, her voice rising. David was boring. Thomas was boring. You were the most boring of all. God, the things I had to endure. Your stories about real estate deals. Your pathetic attempts at romance. You should be grateful. I was going to make it quick. They took her away. Carlos and Rita went quietly. They knew they'd been caught. As the crowd buzzed with shock and speculation, Michael appeared at my side. Dad, are you okay? I realized I was shaking. I don't know. The gala ended early. Guests departed in clusters, already texting and calling their friends with the dramatic news. The foundation would still get their donations. If anything, this would be the most talked-about benefit in Vancouver history. The legal proceedings took 8 months. Sarah Martinez was charged with 2 counts of murder in the deaths of David Hartwell and Thomas Bradford, attempted murder of me, fraud, identity theft, and a list of other crimes. Carlos received charges as an accomplice. Rita made a deal, her testimony in exchange for a reduced sentence. Jennifer Bradford flew out for the trial. She sat in the courtroom every single day, watching Sarah's defense team try and fail to discredit the mountain of evidence we'd assembled. The forensic evidence from Bradford's car matched the method used in similar cases. Greek authorities testified about irregularities in Hartwell's death investigation. Financial experts detailed the systematic theft and fraud patterns across all 3 marriages. Sarah's defense argued that she'd been coerced by Carlos, that she was a victim herself. The jury didn't buy it. They'd seen the recordings of her cold confession at the gala. They'd heard Rita's testimony about Sarah's detailed planning. They'd seen the prosthetic belly, the fake ID, the trail of stolen identities. On a rainy November morning, the verdict came back. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge spoke directly to Sarah. You are a predator who exploited grief and loneliness for financial gain. You took 3 good men who'd done nothing but trust and love you, and you systematically destroyed them. The court sentences you to life, imprisonment, without possibility of parole, for 25 years on each murder count, to be served consecutively. Sarah's face remained blank. She'd shown no emotion throughout the trial, no remorse, no fear, no anger. She was led away in handcuffs, and I felt something release in my chest that I didn't even know I'd been holding. Carlos received 40 years. Rita got 8 years for her role in the attempted murder. Outside the courthouse, Jennifer hugged me. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving my father justice. Thank you for never giving up on him. The media attention was intense for months. I declined most interview requests, but I did agree to speak to a documentary crew, doing a series on financial crimes. If my humiliation could help other people avoid being victimized, it was worth it. Michael and I grew closer through all of this. He'd been right about Jessica from the beginning, but he never said, I told you so. He just stood by me through every deposition, every court appearance, every difficult moment. "Dad," he said one evening over dinner at his place, "I want you to know I never thought you were weak for wanting companionship. After Mom died, you deserved to find happiness again. That woman was a professional. She would have fooled anyone. I should have listened to your concerns, and I should have pushed harder. We both learned something. I sold the Shaughnessy house. Too many bad memories now. I bought a penthouse condo in Cole Harbor, something modern and clean with no history. Patricia Reynolds, the forensic accountant, helped me recover about 60% of what Sarah had stolen. The rest was gone forever, spent or hidden so well we'd never find it. But I still had the business, still had my health, still had my son. I established a foundation in Margaret's name to help victims of financial fraud and elder abuse. Jennifer Bradford joined the board. We funded support groups, legal assistance, and education programs to help people recognize the warning signs of predatory relationships. On what would have been Margaret and my 38th anniversary, I visited her grave in Mountain View Cemetery. I brought white roses, her favorite. "I'm sorry," I told her headstone. "I was foolish. I was lonely. I let someone into our home who never deserved to be there." The wind rustled through the trees. I could almost hear Margaret's voice, patient and kind, as it always had been. "You survived. That's what matters. Now help other people survive." I returned to Dr. Morrison's office for my annual physical the following February. She gave me a hug before we started the exam. "Robert, I'm so glad you're okay. When I heard what happened, I blame myself for not warning you more strongly. Patricia, you saved my life. If you hadn't told me about the infertility, I never would have questioned the pregnancy. Sometimes," she said, "the hardest part of medicine isn't treating disease. It's helping patients see the truth when they don't want to see it." My blood work came back perfect. Blood pressure excellent, no cancer markers. At 63, I was healthy and whole and alive. I ran into James and Linda, my old friends from the Tuesday golf group, at a restaurant in Kitalano. They invited me to join them. "Robert, we've missed you," Linda said. "We didn't want to push after everything that happened, but we'd love to have you back." I'd like that. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least to a new normal. I focused on work, on Michael and Sarah's engagement, on the foundation. I dated occasionally, but carefully now, with healthy skepticism and proper background checks.